Hi guys. Yeah, I'm going to discuss or talk about the NMC's Code of Conduct, and there's nearly 24 points in the entire manuscript that has been edited many times. Yeah. I think we'll start off with treatment, and the principle there would be human rights, really, in a patient-centered treatment where the patient is empowered, and the principle is human rights, and the nurse has to understand their human rights. So they need to uphold the right to life. They need to make sure the patient's not tortured or restrained in a way that would harm them, or that they'd feel upset. And also the right to life, not right to life, but right to have a family as well. Yeah, also privacy as well. So that needs to all be upheld. Let's move on to the second part, which is listening. That's connected to the 6 C's and communication, where the nurse, principally would be an advocate who listens to the patient, writes things down, make sure it's accurate. Yeah, no misconstrues, no misunderstandings about the communication process, asking maybe for the patient to regurgitate what they've said, or just to make sure they understand, and so on. But yeah, listening is really important, because you need to be very sensitive to why patients are upset or in pain or whatever. Yeah. I just put down that when nurses listen, they become more supportive, more sensitive, and more likely to help the patient with any problems that they might be having. Yeah. Then you've got 3, which are needs and attention. The principles are that you know the patient, that you have knowledge of the patient, the idiosyncrasies of the patient, what makes them laugh, what makes them cry, when they want to be alone, what's getting to them, what makes them tick, that a nice cup of tea would cheer them up a bit. Yeah, a laugh, a joke, and a smoke, not a smoke. Anyway, the impact on the nurse from that would be that they'd have to be empathetic and show a lot more compassion than usual, especially with an understanding of what the patient's going through. Like if they were going through sepsis, for example, something awful like that, they know that the patient is not going to be in the best of moods, right? Moving on to 4, I'm going to skip 4, I'm going to skip 5, it's just consent and privacy, but I'm going to mention it again, so no problems there. 6, I'm going to miss 6 as well, miss out 6 because previous research and stuff. I'm going to mention that later, so don't worry. 7, communication again, which is similar to listening, I suppose. Again, running along the same lines as the 6 C's, just understanding, making steps. Interpersonal skills comes to the fore at that point, where you are trying to express something to the patient, and you need to guarantee that they understand what you're talking about, and you are trying every which way but loose to try and get them to understand, writing, drawing, interpreters, relations, just anything, Google Translate, just anything to make sure that they understand what's going in, because it could be quite serious if there's an operation and that they haven't consented for it. It's like, oh no, I don't want to, no, and you might just say, oh, did you say yes? Okay, let's go. I mean, the patient might be, they might go into a coma, or they might become unconscious, and then you're going to need a third party, and it can become very serious all of a sudden. So I'm going to do number 8 now, cooperation. That's respecting others as the principle, just respecting others, obviously, and the impacts on the nurse, because the nurse has to be professional in collaboration with other people, has to be a team player. Their objectives must be the common goal of getting people recovered, right? For example, they can't be small-minded, narrow-minded, start grudging, getting jealous, resentment, and all that kind of silly, petty stuff that you see in a school playground. It's just not acceptable. Okay, 9 I'm going to miss out because it's just sharing feedback. I'll mention that later. Number 10, accurate, up-to-date records. Yes. The Data Protection Act 1998 is your principle, and just nurses are obligated to keep everything up to date, recorded, timed, dated, and secure, which is pretty good. Yeah. Number 11, delegation. Being able to analyse whether people are good enough to do the jobs that they're saying that they can do or want to do. And the nurses are obligated to take a supervisory role or a support role to make sure that certain people are not jumping their remit, as it were, which can harm patients again. Narcissists need not reply or apply. 12, indemnity insurance. I'm going to pass through that. You really know what that is. 13, competence. And the principle there is to make sure you do everything within your remit. You know your strengths and weaknesses. You've done your SWOT. Yeah, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. That you're totally covered for that. And that nurses, that they're not afraid to ask for help. They're not afraid to say I can't do it. They're not afraid to be wrong as well. Yeah. Even if no one's around to help, if you're out of your depth, you need to put your hand up and just walk away and get the help that's required. Okay. 14, honesty. That falls in line with Robert Francis QC's Candor Act 2014. It's being candid, honest. The principle there is just the truth, justice, transparency, closure is really important. Don't leave things hanging indefinitely. So it impacts on the nurse because it forces them to immediately give the patient a report and to apologise and rectify immediately any pending mistakes that will escalate from whatever breaches happened. Yeah, whatever botch operations came out of any operating theatre. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. I'm going to miss 15 because it's just emergencies and remits again, like people going beyond their station in times of crisis, like in COVID-19. I'm sure that a few nurses have probably done that, thinking that they're, having a hero complex and all that. Anyway, 16, safeguarding, raising concerns is really important. So that impacts on nurses. It kind of encourages them to whistle blow, but I would do it anonymously, to be honest. Because you never know. You never know about the NHS. You never know what kind of politics are being played out. The higher you go up, the less air there is. If anyone's safety is at stake, just to make sure that it's at least documented and passed on to the commissioner or the cadaver groups that go around the inspectors, yeah? Just like in the Mid-Staffordshire inquiry. I'm going to miss 17 because it's to do with concerns and the Care Act. I'll mention that already, kind of. 18, medication, drugs. Principle is the administration within remit and training. Obviously, you want people who are trained. That would be nice. And that impacts on nurses because then they start following guidelines and they start securing dangerous drugs that in the wrong hands can kill people. Yeah? Like potassium chloride, for example. 19, harm and the prevention of it from hindsight, from experiences. The principle there is just recommended practices, washing hands, for example, to stop the superbug or even COVID-19, perfect example. So it impacts on nurses because they become quarantined, locking down, self-isolating. They have knowledge of past mistakes, of hygiene, sanitation, and so on and so forth. So they pass it on as an education. But I think the NHS are really good at that kind of thing. That's what they're very good at. 20, modelling. The principle is professionalism, and being professional, not just for show, for real. Just being truthful. So it impacts on nurses. They're anti-corruptions, anti-subjective. Not having this kind of freedoms, they can't be compromised, and they have to put the patient first, no matter what. There's no cover-ups. Okay, it's It's really serious, that is, I tell you. If a nurse doesn't have a conscience or doesn't have morals or ethics, man, it's just, oh my God. And they can't self-scrutinize themselves. Forget it. Get out of the job straight away. Do something else. Go and work in Vegas. Go and work on a crap table. Then you can be. You don't have to have a conscience in places like that. 21, position status. So no, being corruption free is the principle, and it impacts on the nurse because it makes them more honest, more moral, ethical, true, and right. I'm going to miss 22, registration. 23, cooperation with investigations would be the principle, being honest, being truthful, and just up to date as well. Honest, accept decision, adapt to new conditions as well. If you've been suspended or you've been dropped down or you've been demoted or whatever, just accept it. And the last one is complaints.